Hey guys, I thought I would show you how I painted this golden Santa cake for anybody who is interested in seeing how I did it and what products I used.
Santa's beard, and I wanted his beard white, nice and white. So I got out my edible art paints white because right now it's off white and I really just wanted it to stand out against the rest of the project. So I'm just using straight edible art paints in white and painting it over top with a nice flat paintbrush. And it really just did the trick for me. Now it helps that I started with an off-white as a base, so it wasn't like some bold color, but you can see there how it really just got the white that I was going for. And then I moved on to the gold. I'm using Roxy and Rich Old Gold. This is FDA approved gold luster. It's a hybrid luster and I love it. It gives great coverage. I'm also mixing it to create a paint. I'm mixing it with some Everclear. You could use high proof vodka, anything, any alcohol that's clear. You can use lemon extract and creating a paint that's not too thin but not too thick either. You want to get, a nice painting consistency. And this Roxy Rich is really impressed with it. And I love that it's FDA approved and edible. So I don't have to worry about having to tell any customers or anybody that they have to remove part of the cake that's been painted with the gold. It's really a beautiful thing. My first time using it. Great, great coverage. I'm in love with it. This is, again, the old gold. I used it to paint onto the pockets and the mittens and Santa's puffballs on his hat. I also use it as a dry dust, not creating a paint with it, but as a dry dust to highlight him, to give him some shadow and highlight on his coat, which I'll show you in a minute. They also have this old gold, which matches, sparkle dust that you can, comes in a pump and you can't see on camera, but it is very sparkly. And I love it because it's also FDA approved. Yay! Roxy and Rich has come out with some great stuff that I'm in love with. So I had to make sure I showed you this. So this is the same stuff, Roxy and Rich, in the luster, the edible hybrid luster. And I'm just using it now. I'm dry dusting on my cake with it. So I'm just dipping it into the luster and then onto my cap here to kind of knock some of it off so that I don't get too much in one spot. I've already done it on the cake, but I'm just going to show you where I've added it so that you can get some nice, it really makes your cake pop when you just add some shadows and detail to your cake. So in the gold, I did it around the top edge of the trim of the hat and the bottom edge. I did it around the bottom of the golden puff ball on top. I put it right in his underarm crack there. I did it around the edges of the cuffs and in his other underarm there. I dusted it on around the edges of his beard, also around the top of the trim on the bottom of his coat and the bottom of the trim on the bottom of his coat. And I found a spot that I forgot to do, which is around the outer edge of the cuff there as well. So that's just, I get a good amount on my brush and dust it onto all those edges that I showed you. And then after that, I wanted a little bit of color on the coat as well. It started off as an off-white, but I wanted some gold on there, just not a lot. So I just left a little bit on my brush and just kind of randomly and lightly brushed it on. I already have done it, but I'm just kind of showing you how I did it. I didn't have as much on my brush for when I did the shadows, but I had a little bit on there and just brushed it on lightly, and that gave me what I was looking for. I also used jewel dust afterwards. This is my favorite. This is also FDA approved. It's basically edible glitter. I bought a spray pump that I've put it in. I have a little bit of light blue jewel dust in there as well. That's why it's got a light blue tint. But what it's mostly in there is just the white jewel dust. And you cannot see it in the photos, but I'm trying to keep the lighting low for you here on camera because that helps you to be able to see the sparkle a little bit more. It is such a great sparkle in person. This cake was so sparkly. I just was in love with the sparkle that the jewel dust adds. You can only see it slightly here, I know, but In person, it's so much more sparkly and just beautiful. And I just kind of went to town, just sparkling all over. His beard was still a little bit tacky from having painted it, and it stuck to the beard beautifully. And you can see the sparkle a little bit better here. I just love it. FDA approved. Jewel Dust is my new favorite. I also added some powdered sugar to the board. I'm going to show you right here. I first wiped on shortening all over the board, and I'm just showing you a little bit of wiping it on here. And then I got powdered sugar in a little can that I could just kind of dump it on with. But when it's in a can like this, it's just, it goes on nice and evenly. And so it's really a great idea to put it on like that. And then after that, I added a little bit more onto his coat. You can really see the sparkle now. It really, oh, sparkle makes me so happy. And I just love that it's edible. So you don't have to worry about it on your cake. So I just puffed a little bit more powdered sugar onto his coat, kind of all over him, just to make him look like he's been out in the snow for a little bit. And I really liked that look. And then after I was happy with that, I pumped a little bit more of the jewel dust onto the snow that was on the board, which made that really sparkle as well. It made me so happy. I know I've said it already, but I just cannot tell you how happy the sparkle made me. Okay, now to create the star, I just wanted to show you how I did that as well. It was really pretty easy. I'm using a mold here, a chocolate mold, and I have white chocolate chips that I've melted on medium power. Make sure you melt them on defrost or medium power. And I'm just adding it to my mold. I'm going to add it to two of the star molds because I'm going to sandwich them together. I'm going to sandwich some string in between these two, so you definitely want to make sure you make two. Pop it into the freezer for 15 minutes and then take it out. You don't have to worry about the edges and the back because we're going to do a little trick here. I have a baking sheet, a flat baking sheet in the oven right now on the lowest possible temperature in the oven. I think mine is 200 for just a few minutes. And when I take it out, I'm going to use it to melt my stars together. So I've measured to see how far I want my star to fall when I hang it from his arm. And I want it to come down about 3 inches. So I've got some string here, just regular old, fabric thread. You could use anything. You could use dental floss. You could use whatever you want. And I've just doubled it over, so that it will be able to hang. And then I've cut it so that there's a bit of extra because I can always cut it down more afterwards. But now I've got my baking sheet out. It's warm, so I have it on a pot holder. And I'm just rubbing the back of my star onto it to get it nice and flat and a little bit melted, both sides of the star. And then I'm going to place my string onto the back of the star. My baking sheet is not totally flat, which was a pain. It's nice to have a totally flat one, but mine's old and bent, so it caused some problems, but I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. So now I've got my string. The closed end is going to be where it hangs from my Santa and the open end on the bottom. And I make sure it's at the right, length hanging down I want it to be. Line up your stars so that they come out of the mold like the bottom. You're lining up the bottoms as they come out of the mold. I didn't do that at first, and so it kind of messed up my star. It didn't line up well. But if you line them up as they should be, it should line up pretty well. But if it doesn't, you can fill in the gaps with some melted chocolate here that was on your pan from when you put it in the oven. And you can just kind of smooth it down. Those seams as well, you can smooth down. You can use, I'm just using like a flat palette here to do that. I'm going to be adding disco dust onto the star afterwards, so mine doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. But you can also use your fingers. You can put some gloves on if this is for customers and use your fingers and just smooth out the edges, and you'll get a very cool star ornament that you can hang from Santa. Okay, I'm using edible art paint now in honey gold. This is edible, like the label says, and it's one of my favorite paints to use, just like I used the white for the beard, and American Gold disco dust. And I'm just painting on the edible art honey gold. covering the entire star with it. And before it dries, I'm going to add sprinkle it with the disco dust. I'm actually going to cover the entire thing with the disco dust. But the beauty of painting it gold first is that if you miss some spots with the disco dust, then you don't have to worry about it. It won't show through well because you've got the star, the base of the star, gold to begin with. If you just leave it white and you just add the disco dust with some water, then if you do miss any spots with the disco dust, then you'll see the white come through. That's why it's a good idea to paint it first. And that paint acts as, the glue for the disco dust. I didn't have a lot of gold, so I had to kind of add it on at the end. I didn't get it fully covered at first, but then I just, kind of gathered up my gold and did it again. And I got it fully covered and a beautiful sparkly little edible ornament, even though disco dust is not technically edible, it's non-toxic. So if you want it to be totally edible, you'll use jewel dust, but I didn't have any gold jewel dust, so I couldn't do that. And my Santa is complete. I've just added this little video on at the end because it really shows you some of the sparkle of this cake with the jewel dust. At the end, the pictures just don't show the sparkle at all, which always makes me sad, but this was so sparkly and so pretty, and even in person, it sparkled way more than you can even see here on camera.
To see how I made this full Santa cake, the full step-by-step video tutorial is on cakeheads.com. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. See you later.